Hello, I'm Camilla Madison here interviewing Jim Johnson, who is the project architect here on campus. Hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
Fine.
As project architect, what do you do?
Well, actually, as project architect, I was involved in the design of Friesbe Hall, which took about 2 years to actually design. And now that it has been designed and put out to bid, the state of New York required our firm, which is Misa Cohen Wilson Baker Architects in Albany, to have an on-site registered architect overseeing the construction of the building, as well as the general contractor has a superintendent that oversees the construction of the building. So the two of us work hand in hand during the day, making sure that the building gets constructed per the plans and specifications.
Okay, and with the reconstructing of it, are the classrooms going to be bigger, or?
Well, actually, the biggest classroom expansion is the what we call the performance classroom, which is on the second floor. And before, if any of you remember Friesbe Hall, it was a room that was divided up into small music practice rooms. And we've restored the room back to its original size and intent, which will now be an 80-seat performance classroom. And it'll have a small stage so that there can be small presentations, recitals, music recitals. We've also put men's and ladies disabled accessible toilet rooms on the second floor. Before, Friesbe only had toilet rooms in the basement. So now there's toilet rooms on the basement and on the second floor. And so the performance classroom will hold 80 students, and it also has a tiered seating. So the disabled will be able to use the main floor classroom desks, and then there'll be a tiered seating that will be behind. So it'll be a lot like your lecture room that's in Warner Homes. So it'll be very similar to that, and it holds 80 students.
Okay, so we heard that you're turning Friesbe into a green, low-carbon footprint building.
Right.
How are you doing that exactly?
Well, to actually do a LEED building, and everybody should realize it's called LEED. A lot of people say LEEDs, and there's no S in LEED. It's a LEED building, and there's 4 categories that you can actually certify your building as. You can certify it, or you can get a silver rating, you can get a gold rating, and you get a platinum rating. Now, we're going for silver, that we're pretty confident that the U.S. Green Building Council is going to certify us as a silver building. But we also believe we have enough points that we may be able to get you a gold rating. So if that happens, we'll be the first historic building in New York State in the SUNY system to actually do a gold level certification with the U.S. Green Building Council. But what has to happen is we have to get it accredited by the Green Building Council, and so we have to submit templates. And for example, one of the big savings that we're doing is when you renovate a building, you have a lot of demolition materials. And so you've probably seen the dumpsters out on the quad. We have them all lined up. We have them all labeled. Cardboard goes in one, metal goes in the other. And so we recycle materials. 82% of all the materials that have come out of Friesbe as demolition materials are being recycled. So we get a point for that because we're better than 75%. The metal studs that frame the walls, the new walls in Friesbe Hall, are all recycled metal. They're not our metal that came out of the building per se, but it is metal from cars that have been melted down and are recycled that way. So all the metal is recycled material. Another thing that LEED is critical for is using regional materials. So the majority of our materials have come from within a 500-mile radius of Friesbe Hall. So our slate came from Vermont, so that's less than 500 miles. And you try to make sure that all your materials are regional materials, so there's not a lot of transportation involved in using fossil fuels to deliver your materials. We're also able to get points for what's called embodied energy. So when a building was built back in 1917, there was a lot of energy that went into this building, this Friesbe Hall. And so we're able to get a point for not having to tear down a lot of walls to reuse walls, so you get different points for that. And that's how these templates are completed. When you complete the templates for different categories, like all the species of plants that you've noticed that we've planted around the building, they're all indigenous plants, local to the area. There's blueberry plants. There's myrtle, and there's witch hazel, so they're all indigenous plants to this area. They'll survive without a lot of maintenance, so very little watering is going to be involved by the maintenance people. They'll survive on their own.
So it sounds a little more complicated to go green than to not go green, is that correct? Or a lot more work has to go into it?
I would say it's more detailed. I don't know if you would say it takes more work. What it does is it documents what we as professionals designing buildings and constructing buildings for years really have tried to do, but never really kind of put the final cap on things. An example is, it's what's called balancing of the mechanical systems. The mechanical systems in Friesbe, in an old building, are state-of-the-art. The outside air that's brought into Friesbe is all mixed with warm air from the heating system that comes from your central heating system. Before, Friesbe had a boiler, and then Old Jim had a boiler, and Home Ec has a boiler. Those independent boilers are very inefficient, whereas if we run it off the central steam plant, run it off of steam, it's going to save energy for the campus. And our mechanical engineers actually calculated for Friesbe, because we've super insulated the walls, super insulated the ceiling, that there's a savings of $6,000 a year in fuel oil. So now we also connected Old Jim. We took the old boiler out of Old Jim. So we're saving energy by having a more efficient centralized system. So really, to answer your question, as far as is it more expensive and more time consuming, it's not really, when you consider the cost savings that you're going to have in the long run. You're going to save money, you're going to save energy. As far as the planning of it, a little bit more. As far as the cost of construction, the U.S. Green Building Council feels that the cost of construction has increased about $5 a square foot. We say that's a little bit low. We think it's more in reality about $25 a square foot, costing more than what it would if it were not a LEED building.
So when do you predict that Friesbe Hall will be finished?
Our final completion date is April 15th, 2010. So we're pretty much right on target. All along we've been running about a month and a half ahead of schedule. So we want to have it all set up so your new furniture, the building will get all new furniture. You'll be open in September or late August. When you come back in the fall, the Friesbe will be open and the faculty will be moved in and everything will be all set up. It's going to have smart boards in the classrooms. There's a large projection screen in the big performance classroom. And then down in the basement, there's a really nice math statistics lab. So there's a 35-station computer lab for students to use for math statistics class. So yeah, we'll have it ready April 15th. The college will have the summer to be able to get everything fine-tuned and equipment in place and faculty moved in, and you'll be all set for September.
Do you know if anything got donated, because we're going to be the first historical building to go green, if any